So I'll call this regular council meeting of 2014-01-28 to order, and a motion for approval of the agenda. There's no additions. Moved by Council Hewitt, second by Council Lane. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of 2013-01-14. Moved by Councilor Lane, second by Councilor Legal. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Committee of the Whole, 2014-01-21. Moved by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Delegations. Bill Chess, Smart Planning for Communities.
Thank you for having me on your agenda this evening. Taking time for this. I thought I'd just do a bit of an update on where we're at, our next steps. And first of all, I was going to say I'm passing along greetings from Lori Cordell. I was able to meet with her briefly in Cranbrook, and she said you're passing on hello to everyone. As you know, I had a draft document of the sustainability plan. Sent it out in mid-December, which I know is a bad time of the year for so everyone's so busy, but it's out there. I'm continuing to work on the document, of course, and we're getting closer to a final draft, but there's still some work away on that. Focus group met last night, and we mostly worked on the action items for each of those strategic priorities, because I think that's kind of the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the document there. It's looking at what those priorities and what actions are anticipated over time. And we also had some good discussion and kind of considered who should be a lead responsibility in the timeline there. So I was looking at that first go around that a lot of things were being expected of the village, and within next 3 to 5 years. So you realize it's great to be keen on things, but we'll make sure that it's realistic and doable. So we talked about that a bit, which was good. Tomorrow we're having the open house just downstairs in the main lobby here from noon until 6 p.m. And that's just for the community to drop by. So I'll have some of those posters up and sticky notes, of course, and so people can add to and make comments as they will. And one of the staff had suggested putting on a sandwich board sign on the sidewalks so people know what's on. It was also posted in the community Facebook page and also the village website. So hopefully people will drop by and have a look at least.
So do you know how many people go to these things? Approximate?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm not expecting huge crowds.
No, I realize that.
But I mean, if 10 or 20 people drop by, that would be great.
Okay.
And it's more like the quality of the comments that are received. At least getting hopefully the affirmation that yes, you're on the right track. You've got those main areas that need the attention over the long term. And so far, I haven't heard anything about, oh my goodness, you've missed something, or these are totally out to lunch. It's mostly just kind of confirming that those are the priorities for the community. So that's happening tomorrow, and then all the feedback from last evening, and then tomorrow afternoon we'll incorporate that in the next draft of the document. And which brings us to sort of the next steps after that. So we're aiming for a close to final draft by middle of February, hopefully, in there. And I'll send it out again to the focus group and council and mayor. And also thought I'd send it along to the Director of Development Services at the Regional District. I had met with her last fall, and I said, "You're sending her last name now?"
Sudan.
Thank you. So I'll send that to her just for what she was interested in keeping up on what's happening. And so that one last review before it comes to council. And there's also a suggestion I had asked the CAO about. For First Nations in the area, and understand that probably the best one is the Chinaha Council, because they cover the region. There's obviously no First Nations community right next door to you or in close proximity, but at least so the courtesy and that relationship, so they can see what happened, provide comment if they'd like to. It's the document mostly deals with the village within the village boundaries, but too late. You never know until you ask them, make the opportunity available. So we'll do that. And then once we've got a close to final draft document, I will then pass that to Neil for the formalities here at your council table for whether it's received or adopted. I'm not sure what the language is, but I'll hand that to receive it for adoption by the council. Aimings hopefully by the late February, early March, and then it's over to yourselves and the community to choose a project. Yeah, catch it amongst all the other busy things. So that's sort of a quick update in a nutshell. And I'm here till early Thursday morning, mid-morning, and then head back to head back to Cranbrook to catch my flight. So, anyways, be open to any questions or comments. Time?
I'm just wondering if the community services did a project called Project Comeback about trying to make it sustainable for people to stay in the council or easy to come back. And I just wondered if they had contacted you at all.
Well, Dustin East, who's coordinated work, came to our October session, which is good. And actually, that project that First Basin Council is sort of helping to support that because we help the BC Rural Network. So we're arranging a relationship there. So when a project comes up and assist. So I was aware of it. It was great when that council was able to participate in one of the other communities because there's 5 communities around the province that are doing similar things. So yeah, and he had emailed me, and hopefully he's going to be able to drop by tomorrow, so we can just touch base. Yes, but certainly that whole thing around the community longevity and the economic development and housing, all those things are related to that project. So hopefully we can integrate some of the results.
So I guess one comment is we all have people in the community that have lots of really great ideas about this, that, and the other thing. I got to have breakfast with John this morning in Hornswoggle, a couple people walking through the restaurant, and I was very pleased with the result of getting some of these people that have great ideas that are always, everybody's always busy.
Yeah.
So with her being here, if you get a chance and you got these people around, you're bumping into them, send them over here and give them a chance. This is a great time, great opportunity for them to give us some, and there are some great things, great ideas, the things that, that we don't, we're a little bit kind of zeroed in for the rest of them. So. So it's a good time if they get to come over just for 10 minutes and let John ask them some questions on it. It's a really good opportunity.
Any questions, Council? Councilor Hewitt?
No, I think we covered it last night.
Councilor Lane? No. Councilor Leafwood?
That's great.
Thank you, John.
Okay, well, thank you, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow if we can. And if not, thank you so much for participating and giving your time and your knowledge. It's been really enjoyed this project. So we'll still be in touch over the coming weeks, but I just wanted to say that to you in person because I think it's been lovely. I've really enjoyed this.
Look forward to seeing that report.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, darn.
So for a report from the administrator.
Okay, Public Works remain fairly active and are dig the Boltcat Castle Bar for repairs this week. It's a fairly significant repair that has to be done. So it means that the areas of budget have been a little larger than usual. Hopefully back to running order quite soon. John Castro is currently working on 10-year packages, and I actually issued them this morning to the 4 successful respondents to the request for expressions of interest. That's Apex, Debris, True Blue, and who's the third one? Loki, yes. So I anticipate we'll get some good proposals for a deadline on the 13th. I may ask Council to and maybe in coordination with the mayor once we get closer, we may require a special meeting of council to either proceed or follow the budget meeting on the 18th. The third.
Yes.
Yeah, so that we can stick with timelines on the project.
That's going to be enough time.
It gives the deadline for receipt is the 13th, and John Catherine and I will review the proposals and report to you.
No, but I mean for project completion.
Oh no, this is for tender award.
I know, but even after that, I thought it was March 31st.
Oh, I've submitted to UBC now.
Oh, okay.
So hopefully I'll be hearing back on it quite soon. Yes. So it's looking positive at the moment. The basic connection for internet is now live and is reading approximately 97 megabytes per second up and down. As Amy mentioned earlier this evening, further testing will be completed shortly. Appointments due to an oversight at the committee planning meeting. Mary Ballon was appointed. So I've got a recommendation of Mary Ballon was appointed to the Council area selection.
Move that.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
And also the auditor appointment there, correspondence dated 6th January from Bill Wayman regarding the 2013 public process we received and the engagement letter signed and returned to the auditor in February of the
Moved by Councillor Hewitt, second by Councillor Leithwood. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
I have some dates for you there, and also just a quick reminder that you're due for quarterly personal interest reporting on the agenda, and staff is currently trying to schedule a special meeting with council as well. Maybe February the 18th as well might work, I'm not sure, for a forestry visual quality objectives meeting with Ministry of Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations. It might work, it might not, but I've got a doodle poll out to all of you right now to see if you might be available for that.
Oh.
I'll reset, let me know if you haven't received it.
Did you send it?
Last week.
Okay. When we do the poll, I saw was the one regarding the sentence.
You haven't done it? You've completed that one, though.
For the
For visual quality objectives.
oh, okay, so see how much it's not even in my email box anymore.
I'll reset that out then.
That's for sales or for?
No, that's for visual quality objectives. Of course, with provincial government employees, working days best for them, but of course it's not best for a lot of council.
Right.
Foresee.
Call for resolutions, AKBLG. Any motions at this time? Seeing none? So we'll go to D, Castle intake options study, full report.
Well, I hope you've been able to open this. It's been quite a large file to upload. I'm simply recommending it that it be received and allocated. Maybe not. I don't know if we've got time in February to take the whole or not. To get some agenda that's already before there for Chair Hewitt to discuss next steps and the implementation of proposal development. Although it could fit with the budget meeting because it's arguably a budgetary.
Right.
I'll move the recommendation.
Seconder? Second by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion, call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion passes. Okay. Correspondence. correspondence. Four A, 5A.
Well, I'll move that the letter from dated January 14th from Fire Chief, from Chief Battery be received, and our thanks expressed for his many years of service to the community.
Seconder? Second by Councillor Leafwood. Discussion, call the question, all in favor, opposed, motion passes. Letter dated 2004 from Mr. Ken Free.
I'll move that the letter be referred to committee of the whole. February, the letter dated January 15th be moved to the committee of the whole. Further discussion.
Seconder? Second by Councillor Lang. Discussion, call the question, all in favor, opposed. I didn't see any hands, but did your hand go up? I saw your hand go up.
You're pretty quick. So sometimes you just think about putting your hand up as you're calling for a post. So, no, that's...
Okay, motion passes. Okay, then we're at 5C, email dated 2014-01-22 from Ms. Janet Buck.
I'll move that that council reaffirm its 2012 resolution regarding the drainage issue at Spruce Avenue. Is that a good way to say that? Sort of.
Second? Second by Councillor Lang. Discussion.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is the village foreman would be still supporting that plan of action? Okay, perfect.
Yes, he was a little taken by surprise that the proposal from 2012 came back after he'd had some interaction with the individual.
Okay.
Call a question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. And 5D, letter dated 2014-013 from BCEHS.
I'll move that it's received and referred to the Castle Health Select Committee for further consideration.
Second by Councillor Lang. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion passes. I read that letter. That was quite a detailed letter, and there appears to be a lot of outstanding issues between first responders, which really affects us. So I think there's going to be some more work in terms of trying to define, what our emergency services could look like if the doctor's clinic moves ahead. And quite frankly, I would like to talk to them about it, because they're the guys that have to deal with the issue if it is critical. But anyway,
I found the letter a little confusing. I couldn't figure out if we were talking about using lights and sirens or whether we were talking about staffing issues.
yeah.
That was funny. I almost felt like maybe they cut and pasted from the wrong letter or something.
Well, I went to that presentation at UBCM, and even then it was quite confusing as to, again, they're applying provincial statistics to an ambulance service, and I really didn't think that it dealt adequately with the rural situation. But fortunately, Director Binks from RDCK was there at that meeting and asked the hard questions about how is that going to deal when you have volunteers. You don't have adequate service within a reasonable time. The one thing that came out that was kind of interesting was, and I haven't had a chance to dig it out, is that really every citizen in British Columbia, my understanding, and I haven't seen it in writing, but out of that discussion at UBCM, was that you're entitled to ambulance service within 30 minutes, and if you haven't got it, then it's up to the service to be provided. So I don't know where that's going to go, but anyway, onward. Communications for information, circulation package for January 28th, regular council meeting be received. Moved by Councillor Hewitt. Second by Councillor Leafwood. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Committee and staff reports.
I'll move that $5,000 be allocated to Kaslo Aerodrome for implementation of the EDA consultant report recommendations over 2014 with capital requirements sourced from reserve and operational resources and taxation.
Second by Councilor Leafwood. Discussion. Councilor Lane.
I'm still a little concerned about the concept of capital requirements and operational resources. How do you foresee that being split? I'm just not clear on how that's going to transpire.
So, Dan, you have a comment or a little bit?
If it had to be split, I don't envisage within those EPA recommendations more than about $1,500 worth of signage that needs to be purchased. The rest of it all be operational staff and machine time. Really.
Oh, okay. I'm okay with that.
Call the question?
Just a comment. I got some clarification on the funds that are in the reserve account. Those are surplus funds from when they actually did the paving and construction. The province gave that money to the village of Kaslo to do those kind of improvements on the infrastructure. So to me, I think there's a precedent set there that I would, again, still advocate strongly for, that we not start eroding that reserve that's really for maintaining the hard asset we have up there in the airstrip. And that if we need to do operational things up there, like signing that should come from taxation and not from the reserve. That's the spirit and intent behind that.
Councilor Lane.
If I'm not mistaken, that money in the reserve account was the proceeds from the logging that took place up there.
Not according to Ray Sawyer. Ray Sawyer said that money is left over from the original.
I don't think so.
Well, this could bear checking out. All I know is that the village made at least $60,000 from the logging revenue of the first time.
So this all happened right about the time I became mayor. And what happened is the Western Diversification withdrew their funding, and the money that we would have gotten from Western Diversification that would have amounted to something that we would have held as a bit of an asset was absorbed by the work that was done to build that road. So the money, so where we didn't get the $80,000 for the construction of that road was money we were supposed to get from WD, and we didn't get it. They canceled our grant with us because there were some problems.
I can actually show you the invoice where there was actually a surplus to the village from the logging that occurred that paid for the road. But anyway, Councilor.
Well, does it really matter where the money came from? The important thing is what are the stipulations on what you can spend on. So whether it came from logging or whatever, whatever the stipulations are, that's what we go with.
Councilor Good.
And that was conveyed to us via the CEO after the last meeting, that we did resolve to keep it for capital.
Okay.
So I guess we're ready to vote.
So, where are we at?
We have to vote on it.
And the resolution was, or the recommendation?
That's 500.
Further discussion? Call a question? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. That staff received a negotiation of a draft operator agreement template in the assumption that a suitable legal airline entity for operation and authorized improvements will be established over the course of 2014. Moved by Councilor Lane. Second by Councilor. Discussion.
So I'm just wondering if we're looking at potentially, so this is just a draft and operator agreement template. So we're not actually to the point of looking for an operator, or is that where I'm going with that? Where I'm going with that is if we're looking for an operator, that seems we should advertise or make it a little bit more of a public process around letting people know that we're looking for an operator for the aerodrome, so that if it may be, who knows, there might be 2 proposals or multiple entities interested, so I just don't know exactly how that process is going to unfold.
Any other discussion? Councillor Lane?
Yeah, one of the things that I think we're at the point that might be useful is if I'm in support of this motion, but at the same time, I'd like to see us put on an open house and bring forward some of the proposals that have been generated out of this group and have it in the seniors hall on a Saturday afternoon or something and put them up on boards and invite the public to come in and comment. And that way we get a little better feel for what, I mean, there's been a lot said about this and that and what could be done and what can't be done and this and that. I think we need to kind of focus the direction that this thing's headed. So, because obviously we've got very limited resources and some of the ideas have been floated come with a pretty heavy price tag, but I think by having an open house and just laying everything out and maybe trying to attach some dollars and cents to some of these ideas, give us a better feel for where the community stands on this thing, and that may be helpful in going forward with this thing. I think there's a lot of good ideas out there. I think we're floundering a little bit with the negotiating an operating agreement. I don't see that there'd be multiple entities out there that would be interested in stepping in and taking on responsibility for the airport. I think we let golfers look after the golf course, we let hockey players look after the arena, and we should let pilots look after the airport. But at the same token, we have to have an agreement that's workable for council and the community. So anyway, that's just an idea I had that possibly we could look to maybe having an open house sometime in the spring, late spring, whenever, and float some of these ideas out in the community, see where it takes us.
Maybe a good subsequent motion.
Yeah. I think that's down. We should do it this way.
Or at least have it for discussion at the committee.
Yeah, maybe a hole or something.
Sure, well, that's fine.
Flush it out.
So would you like to make a recommendation then?
Well, I recommend.
Well, we're in the
Yeah,
middle. We should finish what we're doing here
Yeah.
first.
Right. I moved the original recommendation.
Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed?
Well, this can be referred to committee of the whole if that's where you want to go with it.
Refer to committee hall, the topic of an open house to discuss the aircraft.
Yeah.
I second that. If you want to.
Second by Councillor Lane. Discussion.
Moved and seconded.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
I'll move that staff budget for a new backhoe based on non-renewable 5-year leasing scenario.
Second by Councillor
You might
Lane.
not be confused about which one this is.
No, well, I'd like to know what non-renewable means to begin with.
It's done in 5 years.
So you're not spreading the payments over 10 years, you're just spreading them over 5, and it's paid in full at the end of the 5.
So do we have a move or second?
Yeah.
Discussion?
A question. So the second motion here, is this an either or are we doing both?
You can do both,
We
but
can do
that's
both.
your choice, you can just do one. I've got a report further down that deals with it more specifically.
Should we table this till we get your report?
No, because the only place you've got anything about AAP is coming up next.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm speaking in support. In favor.
Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
And I'll move that a 10-year leasing alternative approval process for a new backhoe be initiated.
Second by Councillor Hewitt. Discussion. Councillor Lane.
I'm confused again.
That makes me confused a lot.
I know, this price, it's to do with my age. If we go to the alternative approval process and it fails,
You're not, well, my report further down kind of deals with it a little more, but you're not, the AP is not asking for approval for purchase, it's approval to move to a 10-year scenario.
Sorry, I should have known that. Thank you.
Further discussion, call the question. Did we do this already?
No.
Further discussion, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
I don't think you should have known that. Seriously. It's the first time we've had done a dual
Yeah.
system
it's
like
kind
that.
of,
So.
I believe I had this conversation with Neil a few days ago.
Oh, okay.
And he kind of explained it to me then, so again, senior moment.
You're sometimes.
Yeah, I sometimes, that's exactly right.
So be there, staff report, SEDS appointments.
Yeah, I'll move that the following named representatives be appointed to SEDS committee. Representative for the Castle District Community Foresight, Donna Cormie. North Kootenai Lake Arts and Heritage Society, David Stewart. Regional District Central Kootenai, Amy Watson and Rhonda Rustin. Selkirk College, Don Lang. Castle District Community Service, Chamber of Commerce, Louise Papp. And for counselors, Lang, Hewitt, and Holland. And I believe there's one name that's omitted off the list, and another directorship would be for Randy Morse for the Castle Institute.
Discussion? Seconded by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Now we got the staff.
So,
Yeah.
again, do we have any information on where we're at with the Chamber of Commerce stuff?
No, I still haven't received the constitution. So that's still in the air. But as I said before, council is free to appoint someone as a liaison to the chamber, just not to appoint someone directly to the board.
Can we move on to the staff report here? Lease authorization, which may answer Councilor Lang's question.
So I've had some discussions with the MFA. This is my first direct dealings with them, so it's been quite a learning process for myself as well. In 2010, the AAP process for renewable 5-year lease with the MFA was sufficiently close that the council opted not to proceed with the purchase at that time. In 2013, backhoe repair costs had grown to the point that debt servicing costs for a new acquisition were comparable. Unfortunately, since 2010, the value of the current backhoe, which is now over 20 years old, has depreciated further for trade-in purposes, and inflationary pressures have pushed up the price of purchase considerably. In the view of both myself and the Public Works Foreman, the backhoe is an essential piece of village equipment, and capital replacement must be considered in the very near future. A new acquisition will cost up to $120,000 with an expected trade-in value of about $20,000 assigned to the existing backhoe. The Public Works Foreman has researched the matter extensively and advises against acquiring a used piece of equipment, as the savings will not be substantial, and it has purchased as a village will have fewer options when it comes to equipment specifications during purchase. In the view of Public Works, that's quite important. So staff can, if council wishes, initiate an application for a 5-year non-renewable lease from the MFA for the purchase of a new backhoe, and an AAP can be initiated again if council wishes to consult the community on the question of preference for 5 or 10-year debt servicing scenarios. Alternatively, council can simply initiate a 5-year renewable lease AAP process. So I've got 2 recommendations there for you.
Yeah, I'll move that the report be received.
Second.
Further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
And I'll move that liability under the Section 175 of the Community Charter be authorized to purchase a a new backhoe up to the amount of $100,000 with no provision for renewals.
Second, moved by Councilor Holland, seconded by Councilor Leafwood. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. So, staff report, AKBLG travel.
Oh. I'll move that travel expenses be approved pursuant to municipal policy for the following members of council to the AKBLG, Mayor Lay, Councilors Holland and Lang.
Second.
Discussion? Call question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
And I'll move that travel expenses be approved pursuant to municipal policy for Councilor Holland to be reimbursed for attending the following meetings: the RDI advisory group meeting and the health community seminar.
And I'd like to see if I could add another meeting to that that's just come up on February the 7th. It's Farmland and Farms. This is a seminar is partially sponsored by the Kaslo Food Security Project. There'll be discussions around the ALC and ALR, which we've submitted letters of support to the province around that, so I can get a better knowledge of those topics. And also, I think it's important that the village continue to advocate for farmers in our area, even though we don't have a lot of agricultural land. The place where the region's farmers sell their produce is right here in Kaslo. So something like the farmers market. So anything I'm going to learn in that and the way it looks at the economics, that's what I'm really interested in. So I'd like to attend that on February the 7th also. It's in Nelson.
I'm fine with adding that.
Further discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Can I request that the next committee of the whole budget, we find out like where our expenses already are? Okay, good.
And either quarterly Village of Council newsletter.
This is a new staff initiative which I hope council approves of. I felt it was probably about time that we were putting something out into the community. If you have any feedback on for the next version, just let me know.
Motion to receive.
Moved.
Moved by Councilor Holland, second by Councilor Lane. Discussion.
Congratulations. It's an excellent piece of work. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot to staff and you for that.
Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. RDCK. What is that? Yeah. Both set? Oh, Kaslo and District Community Forest Report.
I'll move for receipt of the KCDFS report for January 2014.
Moved by Councilor Leafwood, second by Councilor Hewitt. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Motion opposed? Motion passes. What does PEP stand for again? Provincial Emergency Program, right? The RDCK PEP minutes.
Move that the minutes of November 17th be received.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Hewitt, seconded by Councilor Holland. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. And RDCK their Director's Report, Conservation Service.
So the Kootenai Conservation Program, I believe I mentioned this at the committee of the whole. East Kootenays has a program going that's very interesting, of interest to some regional district directors. And I got an indication from council at either last council meeting or committee, I'm not sure, around exploring further. So what I've emailed to you today is a pretty big document that kind of lays out the parameters around how the Kootenai Conservation Program works, along with one of the work plan requests that's going forward to the regional district. I was sort of interested in seeing if we could piggyback on theirs, but maybe there's probably not enough time, and it's in there already. what's going on, the Kootenai Conservation Program, the main real tidbit that I bring for you that's of most importance, and they're doing a lot of great stuff, but what they're doing is they're allowing a funding avenue, an avenue where conservation programs can be carried out on private land. So we have huge issues in our area around things like fire interface, invasive plants. There's all kinds of different initiatives that fall sort of under the conservation program, but we can't do anything on private land. And private landowners can't get any support in dealing with some of these major issues. So what's going to happen is this allows an avenue. And so the structure is that the Regional District of East County set up a service, and it's like a conservation service. They set up a service, and then they've contracted to the Kootenai Conservation Program, who does on-ground delivery of projects that support conservation in the area that are not covered under what the local government can do. Okay? So I think it's a pretty good thing, and they've got a system, and there's going to be a bit of a rollout. There's some information going on. I keep passing on you some pretty creative and interesting things going on here, and I would rather not get into it too much until council had really a chance to kind of go through it and ask me questions about what it is, and we kind of get our stories together and all get on the same page on it. So that's that. The other thing is I attended a Rural Development Institute advisory group meeting at the beginning of the week. They came out with the state, we went over the state of the basin that's been issued. I've left copies of the state of the basin. There's also a little brief summarized report in there. There's some great data in there. I mean, if you ever want to just peruse some great data, some really good, amazing raw data in there. The little tiny handout that's like 5 or 6 sheets of paper kind of summarizes the real important parts about it. And there's some great things in there that I learned about this area that I think are very important. So you guys can review that when you get a chance, and if you come out of that with any notions around feedback going back to the Rural Development Institute, let me know. They sent around a document. They asked me to comment upon there's 5 different priorities, there's 6 priorities they put forward. They want us to look at 5. We identified 5, and they're going to narrow it down to 3. I have it here. There's a copy of it in the office. I don't know if you guys really want to get into this. It's really kind of higher order research stuff, and I had to actually get Neil's help with me just to explain a lot of what's going on here, and Neil's assisting with it. But if you guys are really interested in diving into this stuff, peruse it down it's in the office down there. Come back with any of your comments around what your priorities might be around. These are research initiatives. These are things around gathering data. The main thing that's the newest development in here is the cultural part of it. The cultural part of it is a new thing as far as the rural development. They haven't really taken that into account. Now they're taking that into account. So that's the main new thing that's happening. That's about it.
Okay, so I'll just report an update here. Went to the Nelson Pilots Association annual general meeting, which was quite interesting. That was on the 15th. On the 22nd, the joint meeting for collaboration between the mayors of Neil's and Silverton, Spokane, Salmo, New Denver, and Kaslo. So we all met informally on January 22nd to discuss collaborative options, and the discussion was around CFO, a virtual CFO that would handle the affairs of the small municipalities who are only hiring them for one day at a time anyway. And so we had 4 retired CAOs that are currently providing this service, and they basically said it's unsustainable. Like, they're retired, they're doing it because they love their communities, but it's not a sustainable model. And then the city of Nelson had been invited to, in terms of their efforts to provide services to municipalities, and Kevin Cormack was there, and so there was quite a discussion about what they felt the city of Nelson could do if the mayors and the councils agreed that this was something worth looking at. Neil Carruthers was there. He said he would approach CBT concerning funding for this initiative, and I everything's going through Kathy Pravan at Silverton as to what this might look like, but what we need is a model. How would it be rolled out? And so it could probably take a year to try to find out what that would look like. But like one of my tasks is to get our audit costs for the last 5 years from Neil, which I didn't get done this week. So when we added up all the audit costs from all the 5 municipalities, it was a substantial number that would go away in relative terms when a virtual CAO, because Nelson don't have any problems with their audits. Anyway, so it was an interesting idea in terms of seeing what collaborative efforts could be made. And we didn't get onto the subject of sharing equipment and things of that nature. There was some concern that the viability of small rural communities is being eroded by downloading. And the day may come when you have to unincorporate, because the costs that residential taxpayers will no longer be able to bear the costs of running a municipality in New Denver and Silverton come to mind here, because they have no industry whatsoever, and they're finding that they're having a lot of difficulty. So that's a work in progress, and I think that Kathy Pravan is kind of leading the charge here, and she could.
I received a draft proposal today from Paul LaFleur on this topic. I'll be providing a report to council for the next regular meeting on that.
So the idea was that if this was to go ahead, the 5 municipalities would pass the same resolution. That it wouldn't be, each council would do it different. It would be, so in order to allow the model exercise to begin. Then I went to a CBT development funding program. It was quite good. That was on the 22nd, so it was an exercise in how you apply for CBT funding. So I thought that would be helpful in working with the various committees in town that are trying to get CBT funding. Then there was Project Come Back, which Councillor Leithwood and Councillor Lang attended on Thursday the 23rd, which I think was had value in it. I think it lacked some sense of where does the money come from to support these things, and do you really want to increase your taxes? But the intent is well-meaning, and I think that it's engaged, our younger people, and provided some initiatives there. Then on the 24th, Kin submitted the BC Rural Network Conference submission on time, and now it's just a matter of, and we've got some really good letters of support from MP Wilkes, from the Mayor of Nelson, the other mayors in our adjacent communities. So there's a lot of public support out there. My understanding is there are 7 communities in the run for this thing. So where Kaslo will fit is the big question. So we'll know by February 14th. And then if we don't get any money out of these guys, we give it to somebody else, because we're not going to do it for free. Like, it's, can't be run with volunteers. It has to be run with people that are running a business.
Maybe we should just correct, it wasn't Kin, it was Kaslo
Institute. Yeah, Kaslo Institute. So did I say Kin?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Kaslo Institute. No, the idea was, for those of us that worked on that if we don't get it this year, then we'll apply it the next year, because they have a ranking system. Our disadvantages were more than an hour away from an airport. We tried to explain informally that you're talking rural BC here, so if you take all the communities in rural BC and ask yourself how many of them are within an hour of an airport, how many are left? Anyway, interesting. So that was it for me up to date. Now, sorry. Okay, bylaws. Anticipation of a revenue bylaw. Move for adoption. Moved by Councillor Hewitt. Second by Councillor Lang, or Councillor Holland. Discussion. We have to read this, do we not? Okay.
So So I'll move that bylaw 1149, a bylaw to provide for borrowing of money in anticipation of revenue being adopted. Is that what you meant by reading it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my computer wouldn't, threw me out, so. Read it first time.
Yeah, well, we already moved and seconded.
Yeah.
It's adoption.
Okay. Let me try to get back into where I'm supposed to be. So,
Call question.
all the question, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Now, I'm totally, can't.
Nine, new business.
What's that?
We're on 9.
We're on 9, new business.
Which there is none.
There is.
Yeah.
Let me see. Look at that. There it was, okay. And accounts payable,
The amount of,
I'll move the accounts payable amount of $41,135.52 be approved.
second by Councilor Lang. Discussion, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Motion for adjournment. Moved by Councilor Leithwood.
We just have
Right.
all in favor.
Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.